Mark.
What's happening, Paul?
We're already at episode 5. I can't believe we're already at episode 5. And we have, I hate to say I told you so, but we kind of told you so. So we'll tell you what we mean in just a second.
I love that intro. I love that intro.
Yeah.
That intro just makes my hands go straight to the comic. I'm like, I'm supposed to be reading this right now. The intro leads me right to it.
Exactly. So we had Dark Crisis number 2, which was the main focus of what we thought we were going to be talking about, but then something smacked us, I think, right in our face. Even though we kind of alluded to it exactly last time, where we kind of really thought we had been calling this kind of like a stealth crossover. I don't even think you can say it's a stealth crossover anymore.
It's not a crossover anymore.
It is in your face.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to be foundational to what's going to be happening moving forward. Foundational.
Right. Absolutely. So we'll talk about Flashpoint Beyond first, and then we'll get into the Dark Crisis number 2 proper. But we could probably talk about Flashpoint Beyond for hours, but there is just so much going on in this issue. There are so many things. I can't believe this is already issue 3 and they're only doing 6. I'm like,
yeah,
the next 3 issues have just got to be so packed because they have so many things that they have to get to.
Or like it's going to be packed, or it's going to. I honestly think it's going to lead in. By the time we get to issue 6 in this, what's happening? Because there's all right. Real quick for context, there's 2 stories happening inside of Flashpoint Beyond. You have the events that are happening on the Flashpoint Earth with Thomas Wayne Batman, but you're also getting stuff with Earth Zero characters, or what we assume is Earth Zero Batman, who's with the Time Masters, and what they're dealing with, which is direct Dark Crisis events. Like they're like trying to stay on the outskirts of this Dark Crisis and maneuver around. So that's the cat's out of the bag for that. Like there was a tease that Psycho Pirate was hiding out from a Dark Crisis in the last issue, and like Paul and myself talked about how this is about to just explode. It exploded in this issue with that, but sticking with the main story of what's happening in this book without it leading into Dark Crisis yet, we've got Thomas Wayne still trying to track down this Clockwork Killer, and we finally get to see more in-your-face effects of what this killer is doing. And I'm not even too sure why it's so important to even track him down.
Right. I mean, there's the whole besides the Clockwork Killer, there's the whole mystery of where did this Flashpoint Beyond world come from? And then we start right off in the issue with it's focused on Superman instead, right?
Yeah.
And it basically retells the story, it tells in Flashpoint Beyond way the origin of Superman and how he got to Earth and what happened, and of course the 36,000 people that were killed in Metropolis when he landed. What?
Yeah, I thought it was super dope too that the way they've kind of deviated in this. Obviously, what's different is he wasn't the only person to evacuate Krypton. There was numerous, and there's also a plan. Like he was like a scout that they're sending off from Krypton first, apparently, to lead the way for what's coming.
Correct, and he wasn't. They weren't sent because Krypton was about to explode, or maybe they were, but they were sent as like a vanguard almost.
And they weren't sent at the last moment. This is what's different. Right? Exactly. Krypton's not cracking and blowing up under their feet. They see the writing on the wall, so like, all right, send it, find us a new home.
Right. And again, Superman does not land in a farm in Kansas. His rocket ends up in Metropolis and kills, I think it was like 36,000 people or 30,000 people or something like that. Yeah, exactly. 35,000 civilians were killed when he landed.
And pardon us for calling him Superman. We're old. Subject 1 is the name of the Superman. That's where you'll see the S1 on his chest, which I would love to have that on a shirt. I've got plenty of S shirts, but I need a Subject 1 shirt, I feel like now. But We will be calling him Superman, but we're referring to Subject One.
Correct. And so that it kind of flashes back to that at the beginning of Flashpoint Beyond, and then we come forward to where we are now, and we see Oswald Cobblepot talking to who we think will be the new Robin, probably.
Harvey Dent's
Um,
son, yeah.
exactly. And out of nowhere, you see in the background, just kind of whizzing past, you see the Reverse Flash, um, who basically is talking about somebody's coming for him, and it's hyper time and everything. And so to me, we were talking before, to me, that kind of reminds me of the very issue of This Is on Infinite Earth when the Flash appeared to Batman and said, you got to help, you got to save us, you got to help me, whatever. It was kind of one of those first appearances to me, but I know to you felt that it reminded of something else.
Yeah, I went straight to Batman v Superman when the first time that we saw Flash on the DCEU when he popped into Batman, which ironically I'm sure that was a nod to Crisis as well.
It actually, yeah, it was. You're right. Yep. And then that's it. And so that's all that we see of the Reverse Flash until a little bit later in the issue. But
then we see a lot of them.
Then we see a lot of that. And then we find out, Superman, or Subject S1, is basically trying to recruit Batman.
Yeah, well, I think it was very telling. We get that scene with Cobblepot and the kid, but then you turn the page and it's a full page splash of up close to Superman with just a small text bubble that says "Everything matters." And I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, this book's important. This book is so important.
Exactly. Which DC has basically said that's kind of the motto of the Omniverse, right?
Yeah.
Everything matters.
Everything matters.
So yeah, everything matters. And so then we end up in a back alley with Superman trying to convince Thomas Wayne to help him, while Captain Boomerang is laying there in there, basically trying his best to get out of there. Firing bullets at Superman for some reason. I don't know why people ever do that, but they do.
Waste of money.
And exactly. And Superman lets him go. He basically, you see the eyes get red, and he just says, leave or burn.
Yeah, leave or burn. Yes. Yeah, Batman. It was awesome from there. Superman was asking Thomas Wayne, like, I have an issue at hand here. I need to show it to you. I need your help. And Thomas Wayne is like, I have better things to do. I'm working on something, and refuses to help and proceeds to try to punch Superman and fractures his own hand. He really beats himself up till finally Superman just backhands him and softly knocks him out.
Yep. And then we end up with who do we end up with next?
From there it goes over to the insane asylum that we're at in the last issue.
Yeah.
Thomas was talking to Harvey's widowed wife who's gone crazy in the asylum, and we're kind of seeing the fallout from her smashing her face on the walls. The orderly's just kind of moving her out, and we're seeing for the first time she's now hearing that secondary voice. She's obviously the Two-Face of this universe. So through the pages of these first couple of issues, we've seen her origin story, the loss of her husband, her other child to Martha, blaming Batman for allowing Martha, the Joker in this universe, to do all this. You see that she now has that dual personality. She has the scarred face, and she's holding a casino coin, which Thomas Wayne owns the casino. Now she has the coin as well. So now where they just kind of solidify that she is now Two-Face, which I'm sure will come into play later in the story. It'll be like one of the subplots with her coming after Thomas or something. And I'm not too focused on that. Bigger fish to fry.
She'll get her own one shot down the road, and it'll be good. And then we move the action to basically the Fortress of Solitude in this world, which is the Oasis.
Oh, that was so dope.
Right?
It was so cool.
Yeah. We find out that Jason Woodrow is
Swamp
Thing. Right?
Yeah, and he's been beefed up with crystals, Kryptonian crystals, and he is the Fortress of Solitude, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm like, what?
Right. And Poison Ivy is there, and that's where Superman brought Batman, and that's basically where they tell Batman the whole thing of what's going on with Superman. And basically, as we kind of alluded to before, they read the crystals, okay? and it basically is Jor-El saying a lot of the same things that he said in the Superman movie until he gets to the part where,
Yeah.
you need to subdue these people so that we can come and take over the world.
So apparently, Clark was sent ahead of time to get there, get strong, and take over the world so that he can just roll the welcome mat when the rest of Krypton gets there before their world dies. And it does preface in the message, like, if you're reading this and our world hasn't already died under our feet, we're on our way. And they time stamped it and did the math, and they have a very short time till a Kryptonian invasion is on their doorstep. 5 days.
5 days.
So
5
now
days.
this so we got the little sidekick subplot. We have the Reverse Flash subplot, which
Right.
we'll get to the Clockwork Killer main plot.
And I love how Thomas Wayne basically says to Superman, okay, so this world basically trapped you, kept you prisoner, basically, did experiments on you, and and now your father wants to come here and have you and him rule the planet. Why would you want to not do that?
Yeah. Which it's funny because, Thomas is like driven by his loss of Bruce, even now, even still after the events of Flashpoint, which he has full total recall of. But like, it's kind of telling because like he sees this opportunity for a son to be with a father, despite the circumstances. Why wouldn't he want it? Thomas just can't fathom that just because he's my father, I'm his son, doesn't mean that this is okay. He still has that better tomorrow inside of himself, which I think is fantastic. He's an incorruptible character most of the time. It's Superman to his core.
Right. And then we switch right back into the Clockwork Killer mystery and his latest victim, who happens to be, as I said, we would see Reverse Flash again. Well, we do, but we see more of him than we probably like because we have blood all over the bed. He is basically the next victim. He has the word "tick" written in blood, and he's basically cut open.
Yeah, he's got his chest cut wide open. And tick is reference to a clock, obviously. It's a clockwork killer, like tick, 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 like time is ticking out. Yes. And none of the people here, the detectives working the case, recognize him. They do not know who he is. None of the people in this world have any recollection of the events of Flashpoint or anything. But so that's where the primary plot ended in this issue, with Reverse Flash running for his life and obviously not fast enough. Clockwork Killer got him, and that makes you wonder who could potentially even be the Clockwork Killer. What level threat could you have for someone to just manhandle Thrawn like that?
Let me jump into hyper time, right?
This is where it gets good.
This is where it gets good. We had people watching everything, and they're basically, for lack of a better term, saying, we need to stay here because everything that's happened over in the multiverse and the omniverse is basically, they're all screwed over there. But they kind of laid out exactly, they're looking at everything and they're talking about, okay, you know what, the omniverse is more stable right now than hypertime is, because hypertime, has, the Flashpoint Beyond world, but there's the great darkness going on over in the multiverse, and so he's like, we need to stay here because if we try to do anything, we might alter our own history.
Had a weird pop-up. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My computer's antivirus stuff just popped up and said, we just stopped something. I'm like, cool. I was making sure it wasn't anything I needed.
Cool.
Doing its work. Yeah, there's some really telling stuff in here about the structure, primarily. Like, it starts off really laying out the groundwork, because back when they started this Infinite Frontier in the Omniverse, we got like a little bit of little visual layout of the structure of this Omniverse. And they start talking about it in the reference to like how they're in hypertime. They're separate from everything else in existence right now. This is how the Flash travels, is in hypertime here. And they're there. They can reference the separate multiverses and how unstable they are, and how the Omniverse is a little bit more stable. And I thought that was kind of cool because it gives us a visual kind of layering to what's going on and how events are taking place in different places. Just because a dark crisis is happening, it's not happening to everything and everyone, but it does have ramifications and ripples all the way out. And I thought it was really telling that Thomas Wayne's existence on this world is not even understood by them, and they're kind of looking at him like he's a paradox that needs resetting.
Right. Because they say a paradox was reset, and one of them says, was it Thomas Wayne? And the other one says, no, it was Thawne.
Yeah. So by killing him, I'm wondering if he's dead or if he just went back to where he's supposed to be. Because we don't know the what's it called? Like we don't know what these realities are. We don't know if Thomas Wayne is one of these little realities like the rest of the Justice League are in, or what he's doing. But it gets kind of a lot better even from there.
Right. So then they talk about that. They talk about Rip.
Rip Hunter. Yeah, Rip.
Right.
The man himself, who we have not seen yet. This is three now. Three of the Time Masters we've seen. We have, I forget these two's names, but it's her little brother, right? That's with Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
And so no one can control Rip Hunter. They don't know where he is. He's missing. So where's Rip? That's going to be critical as well.
Right, and they talk, and it's the last page is it's basically it kind of looks like the page that I think of from Infinite Crisis, where Superboy Prime kind of punched and shattered the world that they were in.
Yes.
And you saw all those different shards and everything, right? Because then they say Hyper Time has enough problems of its own.
So they're literally looking at Hyper Time and the realities around him and how it's all fractured and cracking in this panel. And this is an amazing page because you get like a history lesson just looking at it. You kind of see events from all over the place, from JSA to Flashpoint itself to Infinite Crisis, where Superboy Prime started murdering the Teen Titans even. Like, that's such an amazing panel shot where he's just looking down at his hands that were covered in blood at the time. You just get a lot of cool little history and errors in there. But the primary thing that is, I'm guarantee it is going to be important right there, front and center at the bottom of the page, is none other than Dr. Manhattan himself.
Mm-hmm.
There he is. He's now shown up.
Yep.
We have visual confirmation of Dr. Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
Right here.
Yep.
Yes.
And so our theory is still intact.
It's even gotten stronger.
Right. So we will find out in just a few short weeks. I want to say in 3 weeks, I think, or maybe even 2 weeks.
I plan on finding out Monday.
Hopefully, I doubt he will say anything. But you go. I know you're. Are you a big fisherman? Do you fish a lot?
Yeah, I fish a lot. For those that don't know, if you didn't know, the next episode of this will have writer Jeremy Adams, who's one of the writers and creators of Flashpoint Beyond, as well as the Flash proper title. He's got a hand in this whole Crisis event at DC. So be sure to check out our next show that'll be live Monday with Jeremy Adams.
July 11th.
This might actually come out after that show. So if this does, be sure to go back and watch that show.
Yeah, exactly right. Like I said, I know you're not even looking for him to answer. You're just looking to see his face.
Yeah, I'm trying to read him. I've been watching a lot of videos lately on how to read body language. I want to ask pointed questions and just get my answer visually.
There you go. So this
basically, real quick, this book served the purpose of single-handedly solidifying itself as a part of the Dark Crisis, with the events of what's happening with Thomas Wayne are directly affected and linked with the Dark Crisis now. So this book should have a banner on it, plain and simple. So I'm expecting these. I'm expecting by the time this is done, and there's a couple issues left of Dark Crisis, for the Time Masters to be in Dark Crisis. I think it's not going to be Thomas Wayne coming over necessarily. He spent his time in the whole lead up. He was part of the Justice League Incarnate run. He died over there, woke up over here. You know what I mean? So I'm expecting the Time Masters to be heavily important on the back end of Dark Crisis.
And speaking of Dark Crisis, now we're up to issue number 2 of Dark Crisis. We pick up. I really love the fact that the first 2 panels have Pariah, and they're almost exact carbon copies of panels that George Perez did, and they actually in the corner after Perez, and then it brings him to current, and it basically is him again explaining what's going on, and then we jump right to Titan's Tower, which is where we ended the last issue.
Yeah, this was a more straightforward issue. There's not as much to unpack in the majority of this book. We saw the events that happened last time, and now this is the fallout. All the Titans trying to get their bearings after the explosion, seeing who's still there, and they're getting invaded by this secret society that Deathstroke has put together, and they're now having to fight for their lives, battered and bruised. And it comes down to the duel that we've all been waiting for. This awesome 2-page layout of the Deathstroke with his men. This awesome little, what are they called? Like little crosshair bubbles of all the heroes that are being targeted elsewhere. And Deathstroke just kind of gloating. And we get this amazing, amazing moment where they bring in Beast Boy, head bleeding, half mutated, by being told that, I shot him in the head, but he's still alive. Don't worry, because of his abilities. And then it happens. Nightwing versus Deathstroke. It was tough. I know you're a huge Nightwing fan. Exactly. Great.
Then we get another double. We get another double page spread of Nightwing and Deathstroke.
So gorgeous.
Lots of boxes, also, wasn't it? With the two of them, with the beats of the fight in each of the smaller boxes. Throughout the 2 pages.
Crunch. Yeah, it was wicked. It was a tough fight. Now I'll be honest with you. I was taken a little back because the fight. It was very dynamic, very well drawn, but they amped up Deathstroke from the end of the Shadow War, and then into this that he's like Lazarus Pit Deathstroke, crazier than ever, stronger than ever, and Nightwing legit takes him out. He 1-on-1, fair fight. Nightwing takes him down. Now, granted, Deathstroke's taken mental cues from the Great Darkness that he does not want Nightwing dead. And Deathstroke seems to be playing with him after the fact, but it looks like he legit got beat in a fair fight, which I don't think Deathstroke would really lose in a fair fight against Nightwing. Like, this is a damaged Nightwing and an amped up Deathstroke. Like, both of them on their best days, like, it'd be hard to call who would win that. But needless to say, Deathstroke is sitting here wanting Nightwing to choose which of the Titans dies next, kind of thing. And he says, no, we're not playing this game. You're here for me. He puts his arms out. He says, just kill me already. I'm not choosing. Deathstroke takes him up on it, puts the gun out, pulls the trigger. And then the best moment in comic books for the entire week happens right in front of our eyes. Faster than a speeding bullet. Boom.
Boom.
The bullet fires off. Next thing you know, John is there. Just boom. This artist, my God, it is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous pages. But he steps in, takes the bullet, fires his eyes up, and looks at Deathstroke, says, you missed. And Nightwing says, you've got your father's timing. And then everything changes from there.
Right. Which is the line of the week.
Line of the week, yeah.
Right.
It was such an amazing moment. Like, I was like, arms went up when I'm reading it. I'm like, ooh.
And so, John starts whipping on parts of the secret society, and then who shows up? But
none other than Hank Henshaw himself.
Exactly. And so I thought it was very interesting, the choice here of Hank Henshaw, because
the killer of Donna Troy.
Exactly. But also, the last time I want to say we basically saw Hank Shaw for any appreciable period of time was the Sinestro Corps War, I believe.
Oh, we had the ring.
Correct. And I think that was also the last time that we saw the Anti-Monitor.
It might be.
So I just thought, and again, I'm not saying anything's going to come of it, but I just think, pulling these people in, is just, I think, a callback to some of the greatest, storylines that have occurred in the past. So
again, and this isn't just Hank Henshaw proper, because he shows pretty early in the fight. So he lands because Deathstroke was sitting there watching his team just about to get dismembered, and he had Hank outside waiting. He expected this to happen. Master tactician here brings Hank in. Hank gets John, gets him outside. They start throwing blows, and Hank quickly shoots out that dark anti-matter, anti-energy, whatever he is. He's clearly has the great darkness inside of him fueling him as well. So these are not any of the villains proper. They're all under the influence of the Great Darkness.
Correct. Correct. And then, basically what happens is Hank throws John through the Titan's tower, and then what happens is Cyborg shows up and basically
Yes.
puts his foot down on Hank Henshaw.
So yeah, they go through the tower fighting, but not before Pariah calls his army back. So we were made to think this is Deathstroke's army. This is the dark Great Darkness's army. This is Pariah calling the shots. He calls them back, and they all teleport out, leaving Hank there with Jonathan, and they just have this nasty, brutal, busting each other's faces, lasers to the faces, pounding away straight through the tower, like you said. And Cyborg shows up and doesn't skip a beat. He just crushes Hank's head, just walks up and stomps his head in. I'm like, dang.
Yeah. He's like, I'm tired of you giving cyborgs a bad name.
Yeah, it was rough. So it looks like Hank might not be appearing anymore after this. But Cyborg gives, they tell him, Nightwing tells him, like, your dad would be proud of you, and they look at kind of rebuilding, obviously, right off the bat. But then Black Adam shows up and he says, you're not ready to lead this team. So it looks like he might be taking the reins of this hodgepodge team of Justice Leaguers that he's trying to put together. So finally, we get a credible, experienced veteran of sorts on the team.
Right, because anyone who knows Black Adam knows that he's a man who's very protective of what he cares about, but
what
is
he
not necessarily
is.
Exactly. And what he cares about, and he will take any means. The ends justifies the means. Okay, so he is willing to do anything and everything, including taking a foreign object or doing a low blow or whatever it happens to be in the professional wrestling world to win. He is not bound by any of the rules that other heroes may have.
And as Deathstroke mentioned earlier, how there's other heroes being targeted simultaneously across the world. It wasn't just him. We found out from that little bit of dialogue with Black Adam that Kandak was targeted as well. So he obviously cleaned that up quick. If he's here now already, he obviously did the ends justify the means over there at home and came over here to get up with everyone else and say they're going to be stopped now because they came for my people. And now, yeah, this is probably the best place they could be at, like under the protection of him as well. So that was pretty important.
And then in the final part of the book, exactly, off to space. And this was part of my favorite part of the book, and I know you know why. But we see Kyle Rayner, who seems like we haven't seen him in so long. Exactly. And then we get Hal Jordan, who shows up, and basically they're putting the old gang back together. They're putting the Green Lantern
Hal and Joe show up. Yeah, so
right.
We get Kyle meeting Joe for the first time, knowing each other by reputation alone. Hal just came back himself and figured out the Justice League is presumed dead, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. And he immediately goes to his core, which I think is fantastic. He's not trying to stick around on Earth and gather with these heroes and do this or that. No, he goes to the core because that's what he belongs to.
Right, and it's obvious, that he's gotten everyone, because on the final page, we see Guy, we see Kilowog, we see Joe, we see basically all of the. We see Jessica Cruz. The only one we don't see, obviously, is John Stewart, because he is supposedly dead.
Yeah, he's not doing too hot right now, I bet.
Yeah.
They didn't see Tamara Ray in there either. He's like definitely a go-to in my mind. That's old Finhead for those that don't know.
We see Simon. I forgot about Simon is there as well.
Simon is there. Hal's old lady is back there.
I wonder how old she is in this. I wonder how old she is on this page.
Well, 97.
But it basically says, okay, you know what? The Green Lantern Corps is back together. I can imagine that probably what's going to happen, because they're going to do the Emerald Knights is supposed to come out later on this year. So I'm assuming that yeah. So this will be this will hopefully launch that watch that title as well. So so basically say, hey, telling Kyle, are you ready to report to duty? And that's where the issue ends. And we got a promise that in the next issue, Black Adam
Training
will
day
be
with Black
exact
Adam.
training day with Black Adam. And if you remember in Training Day, the guy who was
Hey,
training,
ain't got you.
yeah, Denzel Washington really didn't have any morals either during
No.
Training Day. So, and the Battle of the Emerald Onslaught. So,
So
that's
who's going to
something
bring it
that.
to who? I wonder if the Dark Army's going to come for them, or if they're going to try to
Mhm,
take it to Pariah on golly, already on what was it, Earth Omega or something like that
yeah.
that they're
Yep.
set up on.
Mhm. So that's where we are at the end of the end of the issue. The next issue that comes out though is World Without a Justice League, the Superman tie-in with Tom King, right, and Chris Burnham. So looking
Bring your
forward to that.
tissue.
Okay, so we definitely will. We will talk about that. But anything else to say about these two issues before we wrap it up?
Read them.
Yeah. And again, I'm so psyched for Flashpoint Beyond to really dig into all this stuff. They just have so much stuff going on. You know, they have the murder. They have why is Flashpoint Beyond even there? They have the Kryptonians coming for Earth. They got all the tie-ins with Dark Crisis. What's going on with Thomas Wayne? There's a million things that they have to get to.
Yeah, I do want to point out, like, I know there's going to be plenty of people that just read Dark Crisis proper, but where DC differs than some other publishers, when they do tie-ins and stuff, they really, really matter. They add so much to the actual story to the point where the primary books are fantastic. The book proper is fantastic, but it's really just more of like a guiding post than anything to the tie-ins that are going on.
Mhm.
Like Flash was great. That Superman one shot that come in is stellar. This Flashpoint thing has all this stuff with the Time Masters and
Mhm.
that's the meat and potatoes is what's going on with
Right.
them. When it comes down to it, that's the meat and potatoes. That's what's going to matter the most if they bring that in. And so I highly recommend checking out the tie-ins as they're dropping, at least the ones proper. They do have like
Yeah.
proper with the banners on them and everything, but you really get so much more out of this for if you give
Right.
yourself a chance to read
And to
them.
your point, they also they are important, but they don't put them on every single title.
Mm.
Basically, there's Flash. They've created the couple of one shots with the World Without a Justice League,
Young
Young
Justice and
Justice.
World Without a
Right.
Justice League.
It's not like and again, I'm not really trying to throw shade at Marvel, but if you look at Marvel solicitations coming up, everything has an AXE on it coming up. Every title has an AXE on it, which you're good for them. I'm sure it'll be a great story. It's just, for one, I could never keep all
I
that
doubt
stuff.
it will be.
I could
They're a
never
good
keep all that
start.
stuff straight with so many.
Yeah,
Because
I've checked out the last few and they were all trash.
yeah, yeah. So again, if you are watching this, this will probably go out on Sunday. So I think we'll have, if you're watching this on Sunday, tomorrow night, July 11th, 8:30. Mark and I will be talking to Jeremy Adams, who is the writer for Flash and doing the search for Barry Allen, and then also is one of the co-writers of Flashpoint Beyond. Mark will be doing his best fishing, and I'm sure Jeremy will do his best not to say anything, but it doesn't mean
It's
that we can't
NDA
try.
face. We're looking for
Right.
that NDA face. If I can ask a question that the answer is either yes or silent, that's what I'm going for.
That's right. But then also don't forget, as keep watching these. Make sure you leave a comment if you're watching this, because at the end of all of this, we're going to be announcing a huge giveaway. When I say huge, I mean huge, like huge.
It's big.
So
Big.
exactly. So that's going to do it for this episode of DC Dark Crisis Deep Dive. As always, I am Paul. He is
Mark, but we,
our Legion.
and you are now leaving Sector 2815.
That was so nice.